Breaking tonight, the Obama White House was, quote, deeply concerned about evidence they had that Russia was trying to pull levers in our 2016 election. And yet, they basically, according to these reports today, let them go with a slap on the wrist. So the question now is why? That is one of two very big stories this Friday night as the Russia investigation now swings the spotlight onto the Obama administration. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. The other parallel story is this. Did Loretta Lynch provide assurances that her Justice Department would not let the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server go, quote, too far? New letters from the Senate Judiciary Committee today reveal that although those emails may or may not have been fake, that is yet to be determined, they do want to speak directly with Ms. Lynch. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us in a moment on that, but first, Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry here with the latest on this report that the Obama administration spent months debating in the White House over how to respond to Russia, and in the end, did very little.
Good evening, Martha. It's one of the biggest unanswered questions of this entire mess. If Democrats were so outraged by what they call a Russian assault, why didn't then President Barack Obama lift much more than a finger to try and stop it? The Washington Post revealing today in great detail how, as far back as last August, then President Obama and three top aides were given sensitive, eyes-only intelligence that Russian President Vladimir Putin was directly involved in trying to disrupt the American election. Obama aides then secretly debated about a dozen different options, but then did very little on the way out the door to retaliate. One former Obama official telling the Post, "It is the hardest thing about my entire time in government to defend. I feel like we sort of choked." When former Obama Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson was pressed on the broad parameters of this under oath earlier this week, he insisted hindsight is always 20/20.
In retrospect, it would be easy for me to say that I should have bought a sleeping bag and camped out in front of the DNC.
The administration was so concerned. Why was it that suddenly after the election seemed, so much serious action was taken?
This didn't get the attention that I would have preferred to get.
I think the American people would have been a lot better informed.
I can tell you, I issued statements.
That statements, not action. Now, in fairness to President Obama, he said late last year he was careful not to push back too hard against Russia out of a fear that it would incite even more hacking that could really interfere with the election. President Trump just sat down with our own Pete Hegseth for an interview that's airing on Fox and Friends this weekend, and it's clear the president is just not buying that explanation.
Well, I just heard today for the first time that Obama knew about Russia a long time before the election, and he did nothing about it. But nobody wants to talk about that. That the CIA gave him information on Russia a long time before they even, before the election. And I hardly see it. It's an amazing thing to me. In other words, the question is, if he had the information, why didn't he do something about it?
In one of his last news conferences before leaving office, President Obama told reporters that at a summit back in September, he privately told Putin, cut it out. Clearly, Martha, Putin just didn't listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated tale when you think about the fact that the Obama administration at that point believed that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election. So the reflective look at why they made those decisions is just going to get more and more interesting all the time.
Did they think that she was going to win anyway, so leave well alone? Now, did they regret the fact that they didn't step in? In fairness to them, they say, look, if they had made a bigger public deal about it then, it might have looked like they were tilting it one way or another. They sort of
But then the rush to push all this information out about what they knew about interaction between Russia and supposedly the Trump administration right when they were heading out the door because they wanted to leave those tea leaves for other people to pick up on.
Investigations
Exactly.
that are now in full swing.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Great to have you in New
Have a good
York.
weekend.
So now more on the breaking story, the other big breaking story tonight, the Senate Judiciary Committee sending a letter to former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. And they want her to hand over communications that she had on the Clinton email investigation. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge reports from Washington.
Martha, the senators are investigating whether Lynch tried to block the FBI case. The chairman and ranking member writing in this letter, they want relevant documents and answers from Lynch about media reports that she would not allow the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information to go too far, and whether those reported assurances were shared with then DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. During his congressional testimony June 8th, Comey said he went public about the Clinton email case last summer because he lost confidence in Lynch. And in cryptic testimony, he appeared to reference a vital record.
There were other things that contributed to that. One significant item I can't. I know the committee's been briefed on. There's been some public accounts of it, which are nonsense, but I understand the committee's been briefed on the classified facts.
Another factor for Comey was Lynch's Arizona tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton just 1 week before Hillary Clinton's FBI interview July 4th weekend. Later that same month, Lynch was rebuked by the Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee for refusing to answer questions about the email case more than 70 times.
General Lynch, we are now about halfway through the members of this committee asking questions, and your refusal to answer questions regarding one of the most important investigations of someone who seeks to serve in the highest office in this land is an abdication of your responsibility.
There was no immediate comment from Lynch. Martha?
Thanks to Catherine Herridge. Here now, Pete Hoekstra, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and a former advisor to the Trump campaign, and Marie Harf, former Obama State Department spokesperson and a Fox News contributor. Welcome. Great to see both of you tonight. So, very big stories, and both of these sort of turning the lens now on the Obama administration and how they handled the question of Russian meddling. And Marie, you were in the administration at that time. With all of these concerns, why is it that all President Obama did was, sort of shake a finger, ostensibly, at Vladimir Putin and say, you better cut it out or else, and then they removed 35 diplomats from Russian facilities?
Well, there was a lot of debate at the time inside the administration, and you saw in that story today that John Kerry and others pushed for more forceful and aggressive action. And I do think that hindsight's 2020. Reasonable people can disagree about whether we should have done more. I will grant people that we were worried about looking too partisan. We were worried legitimately about provoking the Russians to do even more, to try and change vote tallies. But Martha, what I'm worried as I read all these stories and I look at what we did or didn't do, what I'm focused on today is this administration that's in power now doing things to prevent it from happening again? And I am not confident of that. In fact, I've heard the opposite. Are they correcting some of the mistakes they said we made?
Well, both are very interesting points. Pete, I want to get your thoughts on why the Obama administration might not have done more, especially if they were truly concerned that the voter tallies might be messed with in many states across this country. And secondarily, is the Trump administration not wanting to get too close to this issue because of this investigation in terms of calling Russia out on future electoral concerns? Is the president worried enough about this in your mind?
A number of questions there, Martha.
Yep.
First, I think what you see here is this is going to be the end of the investigation of the Trump administration. At least it should be. What this report comes out and shows is, number one, that the head of our intelligence community, they believe that the Russians' actions were not materially going to impact voter decisions as they approached Election Day. Number two, they clearly state that the Russians were not able to do any voter tabulation manipulation on Election Day. And number three, as they've stated before, there's no collusion. So why investigate Donald Trump and his campaign anymore? That is over. Now the question becomes, yes, what did the Obama administration do? Why didn't they do more? What did they know, and when did they know it? And those are lots of questions that need to be answered. So the focus now will be on the Obama administration. And regarding the Trump administration will deal with Russia, but they will deal with it in a private manner, and they will not broadcast what they're doing. It's exactly what Obama tried to do as he was walking out the door by putting these so-called cyber bombs into the cyber network for the infrastructure of Russia. Don't broadcast it. Don't tell them what they're doing. Keep it secret.
So, Marie, from your side of the political aisle, is there a concern that, boy, we have really fueled this flame in terms of this investigation into Russia? Now it's turning around and it's focusing on us and what we did in the Obama administration.
Well, I think there are issues that are related but are a little bit separate. And with all due respect to the congressman, two of those three things he just said aren't true. The intelligence community has not definitively said there's no collusion. That's exactly what is being investigated by the intelligence committees and by the special counsel. And they also have never said anything about, the Russian interference changing people's minds. They have said very clearly they didn't change vote tabulations. So look, we can debate and we can talk about what our administration did. I know that people disagree on what we did, and I'm happy to have that debate.
But the point is that now there's an investigation into what your administration did. They want Loretta Lynch there. They want to say, did you send an email that basically gave assurances that the Justice Department was not going to go too far when it looked into Hillary Clinton? If that's the case, if that is true, that is huge. She would need to explain why she was obstructing justice into the email investigation, Marie. That's a big deal.
Well, the Hillary email investigation is completely separate from the Russia investigation. And sure, call Loretta Lynch up. I actually have some questions about why she did some of the things she did. I would love to hear some of those answers. But that is separate from the Russia investigation.
Apparently, they're having trouble finding her. Do you know where she's living now?
I don't. But what I would press the congressman on a little bit more is I have heard that the Trump administration is not focusing on preventing this from happening in the future again, in part because the president will not even definitively admit that they did it in the last election. And all Americans, regardless of party, should be worried about that.
Pete, quick response to that, and I got to go.
Yeah, I think the American people really want to know, which the article today didn't answer. What did the Russians actually do beyond stealing the DNC emails and perhaps releasing those to WikiLeaks? Loretta Lynch, the story there, 2 questions. Did Loretta Lynch actually say something like that? And why did it only raise concerns with Comey? Why didn't he begin investigating Loretta Lynch, his boss, for
That's
potential
a good question.
obstruction
He
of
said,
justice?
well, I considered a special counsel at that point because I was afraid that, she had a conflict of interest, but I just decided to take the ball in my own court and handle it from there. So there's a lot of new questions here as you dig in deeper to this whole thing.
A lot of questions.
Marie and Pete, thank you
That's
very
true.
much, you guys. Good to see you both.
Hey, great. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too. So coming up next, President Obama calls the new GOP health care plan mean, but has little sympathy for the millions of Americans facing very high premiums. Some say because of the law that he put in place. Karl Rove and Matt Bennett here to debate that coming up in a moment. But take a look at this tweet. GOP Congress may never again get a chance to kill so many people. Could rival the Iraq War in its total. That from a Harvard economics professor. So just 1 week after the attack on the Republican baseball practice, are our politics back to business as usual? When we come back.